The blue glow of my dashboard clock read 3:17 a.m. when my phone buzzed through the truck's Bluetooth. I was cruising past mile marker 47 on I-40, just outside Albuquerque, bone-tired from the cattle run down to Texas. The block number should have been my first warning. "Trent," Sabina's voice crackled through the speakers, broken and raw. "I'm sorry, but I can't keep pretending anymore. Tell the kids I love them. And him, God, he knows everything now." The line went dead. My hands went white on the steering wheel as I swerved onto the shoulder, gravel crunching under my tires. She'd promised to wait up when I got back from the run. Said she had some book club thing in Santa Fe earlier, but would be home by the time I rolled in. I hit her number, straight to voicemail. "Sabina, what the hell was that about? Call me back." My thumb was already swiping through our family chat app when I saw it. A deleted photo notification. But the cloud cache had kept a copy, and when I pulled it up, my stomach dropped through the floorboard. There she was in a desert motel doorway, her silhouette unmistakable, wrapped around some guy in a Stetson. His hand was slipping something into her palm. A key. But that wasn't the worst part. A text message popped up from an unknown number, forwarded from her phone. "If he checks the tack room safe, run." I gunned it home. Dawn was breaking over the Sandia Mountains when I pulled into our ranch driveway. 23 years of marriage, 2 kids, 500 acres of New Mexico cattle country. And it all felt like it was crumbling under my boots as I stalked toward the barn. The tack room safe sat behind a dusty saddle rack. I'd installed it myself 5 years ago, using our wedding date as the combination. My fingers shook as I spun the dial. 10:15:02. The manila envelope was stuffed thick with papers. Lease drafts, option contracts, all for parcels of our ranch. My ranch, signed over to something called Keller Development LLC, dated just weeks after the state fair in September. Sabina's signature was on every page, but I knew her handwriting like my own. These were forgeries, sloppy ones. Her monogrammed pen cap was sitting right there in the envelope, like she'd been in such a hurry she forgot to take it with her. But the bank statements underneath made my vision go red. $50,000 siphoned out of our joint ranch account over 6 months. Small withdrawals, nothing that would trigger alerts, all funneled to this Keller LLC. All those errands she'd been running. All those late afternoons when she said she was shopping or meeting friends. I pulled out my phone and opened our home security app. We'd installed the cameras 2 years ago after some equipment went missing from neighboring spreads. Shared access, perfectly legal between spouses. The doorbell footage made me sick. There was Keller. I recognized him now from the state fair, the slick broker who'd chatted up half the ranchers there. Visiting our house during my cattle runs, staying for hours. But buried in the deleted files folder, I found something worse. Email chains between Sabina and Keller about flipping the back 40 for solar. They were planning to convert our best grazing land into solar farms, exploiting New Mexico's renewable energy incentives. My phone rang. Jake, our 14-year-old. "Dad? Mom's not here. She left a note saying she had to go help Aunt Carmen, but Aunt Carmen just called looking for her." "I'll be right there, son. Don't worry about it." But I was worried. Worried and getting angrier by the minute. I spent the next 2 days playing detective in my own life, tailing Keller's white F-250 through Albuquerque traffic, watching him meet with sketchy-looking surveyors at coffee shops, exchanging maps that looked suspiciously like our property lines. When I couldn't reach Sabina's sister Carmen in Taos, I called her myself. "Oh, hi, Trent." Carmen's voice was strained. "How's everything?" "Fine. Sabina mentioned visiting you. Hope she's not imposing." A pause too long. She's going through some stress right now. Maybe give her some space?" "What kind of stress, Carmen?" "I can't really. Maybe you should ask her yourself." She hung up before I could push harder. That evening, I made a call to Rita Valdez. We'd met years ago on the rodeo circuit. She'd been working security before joining the state police. Now she ran her own investigation business, specializing in rural fraud cases. "Trent Harlan," she said when she picked up. "Been a while. What's eating at you?" "I think my wife's trying to steal my ranch." "Come again?" I laid it all out for her. The papers, the bank statements, the mysterious Keller development. "Vance Keller," Rita said after I described him. "Yeah, I know that snake. He's been skating on thin ice with the state attorney general's office. Land scams mostly. Uses local contacts to forge option agreements." "How local?" "Wives, usually. Women with access to property documents and bank accounts. They get them in debt first, then offer a way out." My blood ran cold. "What kind of debt?" "Could be anything. Gambling, failed business ventures, affairs that need covering up. I'll dig into your wife's background, see what I can find." "Rita, if this is what I think it is..." "I know, brother. $20,000 forgery is a second-degree felony in New Mexico, but we need proof that'll stick." The proof came faster than I expected. Rita called me 3 days later with news that made my head spin. "Your wife had a boutique business before you married. High-end women's clothing in Santa Fe. Went belly up about 6 months before your wedding, but she never filed bankruptcy." So she still owes about 40 grand to creditors. They've been patient, but lately they've been making noise about collecting. "And Keller?" "Keller's been using that debt as leverage. Classic honey trap. Get her emotionally involved, offer to solve her money problems, then use her access to forge documents." I was standing in my kitchen looking out at the back 40 where I'd raised cattle for 2 decades. "Rita, I need you to find out where she's staying." "Already on it. But Trent?" "Whatever you're planning, keep it legal. The last thing we need is giving them ammunition against you." That night, I sat the twins down after dinner. Jake and Mia, 14 and sharp as tacks. They deserved some version of the truth. "Your mom's going to be away for a while," I said carefully. "She's working through some personal issues." Mia frowned. "What kind of issues?" "Adult stuff. Money problems from before we got married." Jake, always the protective one, squared his shoulders. "Is someone threatening her?" "In a way, yeah. But not the way he meant." "It's complicated, son. But I want you both to know that whatever happens between your mother and me, it doesn't change how much we love you." "Are you getting divorced?" Mia's voice was small. "I don't know yet, sweetheart. But if we do, you'll always have a home here on the ranch." A week later, Rita called with a bombshell. "Found a burner phone in your wife's SUV. She left it in the barn." "What's on it?" "Text messages that'll make your skin crawl. They're not just planning to steal your land, Trent. They're planning to frame you for environmental violations to force a sale." "What kind of violations?" "Water rights abuse, illegal grazing permits, contamination of waterways. Anything that would give the state grounds to seize the ranch pending investigation." I felt like I'd been kicked by a bull. "Who sent the original warning message?" "Still working on that. But I've got a theory. One of the surveyors Keller's been working with reached out to a buddy of mine, guy named Peterson. He's nervous about getting caught up in fraud charges. Peterson sent the warning. Maybe. Or maybe he had someone else do it. Either way, he's our best shot at getting inside information on their next move. That weekend, I drove out to check fence lines on the back 40 and found survey stakes I hadn't authorized. Fresh ones, marked with GPS coordinates. I pulled them all up, but not before taking pictures and noting the exact locations. That's when I installed the trail cameras. Game cams, perfectly legal on my own property. If they wanted to play games, I'd document every move they made. The first useful footage came 2 weeks later. Keller and Sabina, standing right next to my main irrigation head, pointing at water flow meters and taking pictures. She was wearing a jacket I'd bought her for Christmas, which somehow made it hurt worse. But the audio was what really got me. The cameras were good ones, with directional mics. Water rights transfer needs to be filed before he gets suspicious, Keller was saying. He already knows something, Sabina replied. He's been asking questions. About what? The money. I think he found the bank statements. Keller grabbed her arm. Sabina, if this falls apart, we're both screwed. You more than me. I know, I never thought it would go this far. Too late for cold feet now. The option papers are already drafted. All we need is your signature on the water rights, and we can move forward with the solar development. And then what? I can't just disappear. I have kids. Kids adapt. Besides, once this pays off, you'll have enough money to start fresh anywhere you want. She nodded, but even from the camera angle, I could see she was crying. Part of me wanted to feel sorry for her. The woman I'd loved for over 20 years, trapped in some scheme that had spiraled out of control. But the bigger part of me, the part that had worked this land since I was 16, that had built something meaningful with my own hands, that part wanted blood. Rita's investigation kept turning up new players. The big revelation came in November when she discovered Sabina's old business partner, Harlan "Buck" Dorsey, was involved. I knew Buck from the rodeo circuit. We'd had words years ago over a woman, ironically enough, and he'd never forgiven me for winning her attention. Small world that he'd ended up partnering with Sabina in her boutique venture. Buck's been blackmailing her, Rita explained over coffee at a diner in Santa Fe. He's demanding a cut of whatever Keller's paying her, threatening to expose the whole thing if she doesn't cooperate. How do you know? Because my contact Peterson is feeding me information. Buck approached him about falsifying environmental reports on your ranch. Peterson's been wearing a wire. Jesus. Gets better. Buck's also been meeting with county officials, paying them to fast-track zoning changes for the solar development. All this is on tape. I stirred my coffee, thinking, Rita, what if we played them against each other? How? If Buck's blackmailing Sabina and Keller's using her to forge documents, then none of them really trust each other. What if Buck found out Keller was planning to cut him out? Rita's eyes lit up. Anonymous tip to Buck about Keller's double cross? Something like that. Let them destroy each other while we gather evidence. 2 days later, Rita sent an encrypted email from a dummy account to Buck's known address. The message was simple. Keller's been telling people you're expendable. Check the Roswell property auction next month. He's planning to bid on development rights without your input. We didn't have to wait long for results. Peterson called Rita the next morning. All hell broke loose, he said. Buck stormed into Keller's office yesterday, screaming about being betrayed. Keller tried to calm him down, but Buck's threatening to go to the feds. What about Sabina? caught in the middle. Buck's pressuring her to sign over more property rights, but she's getting scared. She knows if this comes out, she'll face jail time. That's when she reached out to me. The email came through our old shared account, the one we'd set up when the kids were born for family photos and school communications. Trent, I know you probably hate me right now, but I need to explain. Can we meet? Just to talk? I showed the message to Rita. It's a trap, she said immediately. Maybe. Or maybe she's finally ready to come clean. Don't matter. You meet with her. You give her a chance to spin some sob story and muddy the waters. Better to let her hang herself. But I was curious. After 23 years, I wanted to hear what she had to say for herself. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop in Bernalillo, halfway between Albuquerque and Santa Fe. She looked terrible. Thin, dark circles under her eyes, wearing clothes I didn't recognize. You look like hell, I said, sliding into the booth across from her. Thanks. You always were a charmer. We stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. I never meant for it to go this far. How far do you mean for it to go, Sabina? Just far enough to steal my ranch? Her eyes filled with tears. It's not like that. Then what is it like? Because from where I sit, it looks like you decided to screw me over for some smooth-talking developer and a few $1,000s. A few thousand? She laughed bitterly. Trent, I owed $40,000 to creditors from the boutique. They were threatening legal action. So you decided to commit felony fraud instead of just telling your husband? You wouldn't have understood. Try me. She took a shaky breath. The boutique failed because I was skimming money to cover gambling debts. Online poker, sports betting. I was in deep with some dangerous people. This was news to me. How deep? Deep enough that they were making threats about the kids. I felt a chill. What kind of threats? Photos of them at school. Messages about knowing their schedules. I was terrified, Trent. For the first time since this whole mess started, I felt a flicker of sympathy. But only a flicker. So, instead of coming to me, your husband of 23 years, you decided to team up with Vance Keller to steal our ranch. He said it would just be a loan against the property. Something temporary until I could pay off the debts. Sabina, I've seen the documents. This wasn't a loan. This was you signing over development rights to solar companies. She looked away. It got complicated. No, it got criminal. And now you've dragged our kids into it. The kids don't know anything. They know their mother disappeared in the middle of the night. They know something's wrong. You think they're stupid? She started crying then, really crying. Part of me wanted to comfort her, the way I had for over 2 decades. But the other part, the part that had been betrayed and lied to and stolen from, stayed hard as stone. What do you want from me? I asked. I want to make it right. How? I'll testify against Keller. Tell the authorities everything. In exchange for what? Immunity, and maybe we could work something out. For the kids. I studied her face. Was this genuine remorse or just another manipulation? I'll think about it, I said, standing up. But Sabina? If you're lying to me again, if this is some scheme to save your own skin, I will make sure you go down for everything, all of it. She nodded, still crying. I left her there and drove home, where Rita was waiting with news that would change everything. The Attorney General's office is opening a formal investigation, Rita said, meeting me in the barn. My contact Peterson finally went to the feds. They've got enough evidence to start seizing documents and freezing assets. When? Soon. Maybe days. But there's something else. Your wife's not just involved with Keller and Buck. There's a fourth player we missed. Who? Remember the burner phone texts? The warnings about checking the safe? Yeah. Wasn't Peterson. Wasn't Buck either. It was someone inside Keller's operation who's been feeding information to competitors. A rival developer? That's my guess. Someone who wanted to see Keller's scam exposed so they could swoop in on the properties he was targeting. The implications hit me like a truck. So Sabina wasn't just betraying me for Keller. She was betraying Keller for someone else. Or being manipulated by someone else. Either way, this thing is a lot bigger than we thought. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the coffee shop meeting, about Sabina's tears and her claims about gambling debts and threats against the kids. Was any of it true? Or was she still playing me, even now? I got my answer the next morning when Jake found something in the house. "Dad, you need to see this," he said, holding up a small jewelry box. "Found it in Mom's closet when Mia and I were cleaning out her room." Inside was a necklace I'd never seen before. Expensive looking, with a pendant that matched the one in the photo from the motel. But there was also a note tucked under the velvet lining. "For my desert rose. Thanks for taking such good care of our secret." V. Keller's handwriting. I was sure of it. "Dad?" Jake was watching me carefully. "Is Mom having an affair?" The kid was 15 now, birthday had been last month, and sharp enough to put pieces together. "Yeah, son, I think she is." "With that guy Keller?" "You know about Keller?" Jake shrugged. "Mia and I did some research online after you told us about Mom's money problems. Found some stuff about him on business forums. He's got a reputation for screwing people over." "What kind of stuff?" "Reviews from other ranchers who say he promised them good deals and then cheated them out of their land. Some lawsuit records. He's been doing this for years." I looked at my son with new respect. "How much do you and your sister know?" "Enough to know Mom's in serious trouble, and enough to know you're trying to protect us from the worst of it. I'm sorry you have to deal with this." Jake squared his shoulders, a gesture I recognized from looking in the mirror. "We're Harlan's, Dad. We deal with what comes our way." That afternoon, Rita called with the final piece of the puzzle. The fourth player is Carson Wright, another developer from Roswell. He's been trying to outbid Keller on solar development projects all year. My guess is he planted someone inside Keller's operation to feed him information. Who? Still working on that. But here's the kicker. Wright approached your wife months ago, before she ever got involved with Keller. Offered to pay off her gambling debts in exchange for inside information on local ranch properties. So she was working for Wright first? Looks like it. But when Keller made a better offer, she switched sides. Problem is, Wright still had leverage over her. Photos, recordings, evidence of her taking his money. So he was blackmailing her to sabotage Keller. That's my read. The warning text about the safe? That was Wright's way of forcing her hand, making sure you'd discover the evidence before Keller could complete his scam. I sat down hard in my kitchen chair. Rita, how deep does this go? Deep enough that the Attorney General's office is talking about a multi-county task force. This isn't just about your ranch anymore, Trent. It's about a whole network of land fraud schemes. And Sabina's right in the middle of it. Up to her neck. The arrests came on a Tuesday morning in December, right after the kids left for school. I was fixing a broken water pipe when I heard the sirens. Rita called me an hour later. They got Keller and Buck at Keller's office. Your wife turned herself in this morning with her lawyer. What about Wright? Still gathering evidence on him. But the DA thinks they've got enough to make deals with some of the smaller players in exchange for testimony. What kind of deals? Reduced charges in exchange for cooperation. Your wife's lawyer is already asking about plea agreements. I drove into town that afternoon and stood outside the courthouse, watching Sabina's lawyer, some expensive-looking guy from Santa Fe, walking up the steps with a briefcase. Through the windows, I could see news vans parked on the street. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Coffee shop, 1 hour, come alone. I almost deleted it, but something made me go. Maybe curiosity, maybe stupidity. The man waiting for me was tall, silver-haired, wearing a suit that probably cost more than I made in a month. Carson Wright, I assumed. Mr. Harlan, thank you for coming. You're right. Guilty as charged. I wanted to speak with you before this whole thing gets completely out of hand. About what? About your wife, and about making sure she doesn't take you down with her. I studied his face. Smooth, practiced, the kind of guy who made a living talking people out of their money. What do you want? I want to make sure we understand each other. Your wife made some poor choices, but she's not the real villain here. Keller and Buck were using her, manipulating her gambling addiction to get access to rural properties. And you? Wright smiled. I was protecting my business interests. When I learned what Keller was doing, I tried to stop it through legal channels. But sometimes legal channels move too slowly. So you used my wife to sabotage him. I encouraged her to do the right thing. There's a difference. Not to me, there isn't. Wright leaned forward. Mr. Harlan, your wife is facing serious federal charges. Wire fraud, conspiracy, money laundering. She could get 10 years. Maybe she should. And leave your children without a mother? That hit where it hurt. But I kept my expression neutral. What are you proposing? I'm proposing that we work together to make sure the right people pay for this. Keller and Buck are the ones who organized the scam. Your wife was just a pawn. A pawn who forged documents and stole $50,000. A pawn who was threatened and manipulated by criminals. There's a difference, and a good lawyer can make that difference clear to a jury. In exchange for what? In exchange for your wife's cooperation in exposing the full scope of Keller's operation. She has information about other ranchers, other properties, information that could help the authorities shut down this entire network. I thought about it. Part of me wanted to see Sabina pay for everything she'd done. But the bigger part, the part that still loved my kids more than I hated their mother, wanted to find a way through this that didn't destroy what was left of our family. I'll think about it, I said. Wright slid a business card across the table. When you're ready to talk, call me. But don't wait too long. Keller's lawyer is already shopping for a deal, and the first one to cooperate usually gets the best terms. That evening, I sat down with Jake and Mia and told them everything. Not the sanitized version I'd been feeding them, but the whole ugly truth. So Mom was stealing from us? Mia asked when I finished. She was trying to solve a problem that got out of control. By committing crimes, Jake said flatly. Yes. And now she's going to prison? Maybe, probably. Mia started crying. I hate her. No, you don't. I do. She ruined everything. Jake put his arm around his sister. Dad, what happens to us? You stay here with me. This is your home. That doesn't change. What about Mom? I don't know yet. But whatever happens, we'll get through it together. That night, I called Wright's number. Mr. Harlan, I wondered if you might reconsider. I want to know exactly what kind of cooperation you're talking about. Your wife knows about at least 6 other properties Keller was targeting. She has copies of forged documents, recordings of conversations, bank records showing money transfers. All of it admissible in court. And in exchange? Reduced charges. Probably 2 years, with the possibility of supervised release after 18 months. What about restitution? The $50,000 would have to be paid back plus penalties, but compared to 10 years in federal prison. I get it. There's one more thing. Keller's been threatening witnesses, your wife specifically. If she cooperates, she'll need protection. What kind of protection? Relocation, new identities, Federal Witness Protection Program. My blood went cold. For how long? Potentially permanent. That would mean leaving the kids. Not necessarily. Families can be relocated together. I'm not giving up my ranch. Then it might mean your wife leaving the kids with you and starting over somewhere else. I hung up on him. The trial preparations took 3 months. Rita kept me updated on the plea negotiations, the witness testimony, the evidence gathering. Keller's lawyer was indeed shopping for a deal, trying to pin the whole thing on Buck and Sabina. Buck was claiming he'd been coerced. Sabina was maintaining that she'd been manipulated and threatened. In January, I got a call from the assistant district attorney handling the case. Mr. Harlan, we need to discuss your wife's cooperation agreement. What about it? She's provided substantial information about the fraud network, identified victims in 3 counties, provided recordings and documents that have led to additional arrests. Frankly, without her cooperation, we might not have been able to build cases against the other defendants. So we're recommending 18 months, with credit for time served and possibility of supervised release after 1 year. What about the $50,000? Full restitution plus interest. The federal government will garnish wages and assets until it's repaid. And Wright. Still under investigation, but your wife's testimony has been crucial there too. I thought about it for a long moment. What does she want from me? To see the kids, and to ask your forgiveness. She can see the kids. Forgiveness. That's going to take some time. I understand. There's something else, though. She's asked to speak with you before sentencing. In person. Why? She says there are things she needs to tell you that she couldn't say in court. The federal courthouse in Albuquerque was busier than I expected. Lawyers and defendants and family members crowding the hallways, everyone looking stressed and tired. Sabina was waiting in a small conference room, wearing an orange jumpsuit that made her look pale and thin. She'd lost at least 20 pounds since I'd last seen her. "Thank you for coming," she said when I sat down across from her. "The kids want to see you before sentencing." "I want to see them too. But first, I need to tell you some things." "I'm listening." She took a deep breath. The gambling addiction was real, but it wasn't just poker and sports betting. What else? Day trading, cryptocurrency. I lost almost $60,000 over 2 years, not 40. Jesus, Sabina. I was using the boutique accounts to cover losses, which is why the business failed. And when creditors started calling, I panicked. So you turned to Wright. Wright approached me, actually. Said he'd been watching the boutique's financial records and knew I was in trouble. Offered to pay off the debts in exchange for information about ranch properties. And you said yes. I said yes, but Trent? I never meant for it to go as far as it did. Wright just wanted inside information on who might be interested in selling, what properties were struggling financially. But then Keller got involved. Wright introduced me to Keller, said he could offer better terms, more money, faster debt relief. But Keller wanted more than just information. He wanted forged documents. She nodded. By then, I was in too deep to back out. Wright had recordings of our conversations, photos of me taking his money. He said if I didn't cooperate with Keller, he'd make sure I went to prison for fraud. So you were being blackmailed by both of them? Basically. And then Buck found out about the scheme and wanted his cut, so I was being blackmailed by 3 different people. I sat back in my chair, trying to process it all. Sabina, why didn't you just come to me? Because I was ashamed, and because I thought I could handle it myself. By stealing our ranch? By finding a way to pay off the debts without you ever knowing about them. I thought if I could just get through this one mess, I could start over clean. And the affair with Keller? Her face crumpled. I won't insult you by saying it meant nothing. For a few weeks it felt like an escape from all the lies and pressure. But it wasn't love, Trent. It was just desperation. We sat in silence for a while. Finally, I asked the question that had been eating at me for months. Do you love me? Did you ever love me? Yes. I know that's hard to believe after everything I've done, but yes. I love you, and I love our children, and I hate myself for destroying our family. Then why? Because I'm an addict, Trent. Not just to gambling, but to the rush of taking risks, of thinking I can outsmart everyone around me. And addicts hurt the people they love most. Are you getting help? In here, as much as I can. Group therapy, counseling. I'm learning things about myself that I wish I'd understood years ago. Like what? Like the fact that I've been lying to myself about money problems since before we got married. The boutique wasn't my first failed business. It was just the biggest one. This was news to me. What other businesses? Online marketing schemes, multi-level marketing companies, investment clubs, small stuff. But I was always looking for the big score that would make everything else worthwhile. And I never knew about any of it. Because I got good at hiding debt and covering losses, until the losses got too big to hide. I looked at her across the table. This woman I'd been married to for over 20 years, who had apparently been living a secret life I knew nothing about. What happens now? I asked. I serve my time. I pay back what I owe. And I hope that someday, maybe, you and the kids can find a way to forgive me. The kids are hurting, Sabina. They feel betrayed and confused and angry. I know. I'll do whatever it takes to repair that relationship. Even if it means staying away? She was quiet for a long moment. If that's what's best for them, yes. And us? I don't know. I hope we can find a way to co-parent effectively. Beyond that, she shrugged. I guess that's up to you. Sabina was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison, with supervised release after 1 year. Keller got 5 years for organizing the fraud scheme. Buck got 3 years for his role in the conspiracy. Wright was still under investigation, but rumor had it he was facing charges in multiple states. I filed for divorce 2 weeks after the sentencing, not because I was angry anymore. The anger had burned itself out during months of legal proceedings, but because I needed a clean start for myself and the kids. The property settlement was straightforward. Sabina signed over all rights to the ranch and took responsibility for the restitution payments. In exchange, I agreed to cover the kids' expenses until they turned 18 and to allow regular visitation once she was released. In March, Elena Ruiz called me about a follow-up story she was writing on rural land fraud. We'd met during the investigation. She was a journalist with the Albuquerque Journal who'd been covering the case from the beginning. "I'm organizing a ranchers cooperative," I told her over dinner at a steakhouse in Santa Fe. "Trying to help other properties that might be vulnerable to this kind of scam." "That's admirable. It's also good business. Strength in numbers, shared resources, better legal protection." Elena smiled. "Always the practical rancher." "Someone has to be." We'd been seeing each other casually since January. Nothing serious, just coffee meetings and the occasional dinner. She was smart, independent, and refreshingly honest about her career ambitions. After months of lies and deception, I found her straightforwardness attractive. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Shoot." "Do you think you'll ever trust anyone completely again?" I thought about it. "Maybe, but it'll take time." "What about your kids? How are they handling everything?" "Better than I expected, honestly. They're angry at their mother, but they're not taking it out on each other or on me. And they're protective of the ranch in a way I've never seen before." "Protective how?" "They check the fence lines without being asked. They notice when strangers are around. They ask questions about the business operations. It's like they've decided this place is worth defending." "Maybe they learned that from watching you defend it." "Maybe." That night, driving home under a clear New Mexico sky, I thought about the past year. The betrayal, the investigation, the legal battles, the divorce. It had been the worst year of my life in many ways, but it had also clarified things. The ranch wasn't just land and cattle and water rights. It was home. It was legacy. It was worth fighting for. And maybe that was enough for now. In May, I got a letter from Sabina. She was doing well in prison, working in the library, taking business courses, attending counseling sessions. She missed the kids terribly, but understood why I was limiting contact for now. "I know I don't have the right to ask for anything," she wrote, "but I hope that someday you'll be able to think of the good years we had together without anger. We built something beautiful with Jake and Mia, and whatever else I destroyed, I'm proud of that." I showed the letter to the kids. They read it without comment, then went back to their homework. Later that evening, Mia knocked on my bedroom door. "Dad, do you think Mom really loves us?" "Yes, sweetheart. I think she does." "Then why did she lie to us for so long?" "Because she was scared and ashamed and didn't know how to ask for help." "That's stupid." "Yeah, it is. But adults do stupid things sometimes, even when they love their families." "Will we see her when she gets out?" "Do you want to?" Mia shrugged. "Maybe, I don't know." "You don't have to decide now. We'll figure it out when the time comes." Jake appeared in the doorway. "Dad?" Rita called. She said Wright's been arrested. "What for?" "Same stuff as the others. Fraud, conspiracy, money laundering, but also something about threatening witnesses." "Good." She also said there might be more arrests. Other developers, other scams in other counties. "Probably." Jake leaned against the doorframe. "Are you sorry we found out? About Mom, I mean?" "No, are you?" "No, but I kind of wish she'd been better at hiding it." I laughed despite myself. "Why?" "Because then we could have just thought she was having a midlife crisis instead of knowing she's a criminal." "Jake?" "I know, Dad. I know you're supposed to say she's still our mother and she's not really a bad person and all that. But she is a criminal, and she did try to steal our ranch." And that sucks. He was right. It did suck, but there wasn't much point in dwelling on it. What matters now is what we do next, I said. What are we doing next? We're rebuilding. The ranch, our lives, our family. Just the three of us for now. And Elena? I looked at him sharply. What about Elena? Are you going to marry her? We're just friends, son. Dad, you're not that good at hiding things either. In July, Elena and I officially started dating. Not that it was much of a secret. Small communities don't keep secrets well, and ranch people gossip worse than church ladies. People are talking, she warned me, over dinner at a Mexican restaurant in Bernalillo. About what? About how fast you're moving on from your wife. My ex-wife, and it's been a year since she left. I know. But some people think you should wait longer. How much longer? Until she's out of prison, maybe. Until the kids are older. Until you've had more time to process the trauma. Elena, are you having second thoughts? She reached across the table and took my hand. No. But I want to make sure you're not using me to avoid dealing with your feelings. What feelings? Anger, hurt, betrayal. The normal feelings someone has when their spouse destroys their marriage. I squeezed her hand. I dealt with those feelings during the investigation and the trial. Now I'm ready to move forward. Are you sure? I'm sure. But privately, I wondered if she might be right. Was I moving too fast? Using a new relationship to avoid processing the pain of the old one? That weekend, the kids and I drove out to check the back 40 where Keller and Sabina had planned to install the solar farm. The survey stakes were long gone, but you could still see the marks where they'd been driven into the ground. It's weird, Mia said, standing in the middle of what would have been the main installation site. What's weird? Thinking about how different everything would be if Mom had gotten away with it. Different how? Well, we'd be living somewhere else. You'd be working for someone else. This would all be solar panels instead of grass. Jake kicked at the dirt. Maybe Mom would have taken us with her when she ran away. Would you have wanted that? I asked. No, but I wonder if she thought about it. About whether she cared more about us or the money. It was a fair question. One I'd wondered about myself. I think she convinced herself she was doing it for us, I said finally. But really, she was doing it for herself. Do you think she'll try to come back when she gets out? Mia asked. To the ranch? To our lives. I think she'll try to be part of your lives. Whether that includes me, I don't know. That night, after the kids went to bed, I sat on the front porch with a beer and thought about the question Mia had asked. What would I do if Sabina wanted to reconcile when she got out? Not just co-parent, but actually rebuild our marriage. A year ago, I would have said never. The betrayal was too deep, the lies too extensive. But time had a way of softening even the sharpest edges of anger. Did I still love her? In some ways, yes. You don't erase 23 years of marriage with 18 months of legal proceedings. But did I trust her? Could I ever trust her again? That was a different question entirely. In August, Elena and I took the kids camping in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. It was the first family trip we'd taken since Sabina left, and the first time Elena had spent extended time with Jake and Mia. Do you think Dad's happy? I overheard Mia asking Elena while they were setting up the tent. Do you think he's happy? Happier than he was, but not as happy as he was before. Before your mom left? Before everything. Before the lies and the stealing and the divorce. Elena was quiet for a moment. Happiness isn't just about avoiding bad things, you know. It's also about building good things. Are you a good thing? I hope so. But that's really up to your dad and you kids to decide. That evening, around the campfire, Jake asked Elena about her work. Why do you write about boring stuff like land fraud and court cases? Because it's not boring to the people it affects. Your family, for instance. But don't you want to write about more exciting things? Like sports or celebrities or something? I think holding powerful people accountable for their actions is pretty exciting. Jake considered this. Did your stories help catch the guys who tried to steal our ranch? A little. Mostly I just told people what was happening so they could protect themselves. That's important, Mia said. Other families need to know what to watch out for. Later, after the kids were in their sleeping bags, Elena and I sat by the dying fire and talked. They're good kids, she said. They are. Smarter than they should have to be at their age. They've been through a lot. Yeah? What about you? How are you really doing? Most days, good. Some days, not so good. What makes the difference? Whether I'm looking backward or forward. Elena poked at the coals with a stick. And what do you see when you look forward? The ranch thriving. The kids graduating from high school, maybe college, building lives they can be proud of. What about your own life, outside of being a father and a rancher? I looked at her across the fire, still working on that part. Take your time, but not too much time. In September, Sabina called from prison. It was her first phone call to the house since the arrest, and the kids were both home from school. Do you want to talk to her? I asked them. Jake shrugged. I guess. Mia nodded reluctantly. I put the call on speaker. Hi, Mom, Mia said, her voice careful and controlled. Hi, sweetheart. How are you? How's school? Fine. I'm taking AP classes now. That's wonderful. I'm so proud of you. An awkward silence. Mom? Jake's voice. Yes, honey? Are you coming back when you get out? Back to New Mexico, yes. But not to the ranch. Your father and I are divorced now. We know. Jake, I want you and your sister to understand that what happened between your father and me doesn't change how much I love you both. Then why did you do it? Mia's question was blunt and painful. Sabina was quiet for a long moment. Because I made terrible decisions and convinced myself I was protecting our family when really I was destroying it. That's not an answer, Jake said. Yes, it is. It's just not a good answer. After the call ended, the kids were subdued for the rest of the evening. At bedtime, Mia knocked on my door. Dad, do you think we should visit her? Do you want to? Kind of. But also kind of not. What are you afraid of? That she'll try to make us feel sorry for her. Or that she'll make promises she can't keep. Those are reasonable concerns. What do you think we should do? I sat down on the edge of my bed and thought about it. I think we should do whatever feels right to you and your brother. If you want to visit her, we'll visit her. If you want to wait until she's out of prison, we'll wait. What would you do? Honestly, I'd probably wait. But that's because I'm still angry with her in ways that you don't have to be. Because she lied to you specifically? Because she betrayed our partnership. Marriage is supposed to be about trust and honesty, and she broke both of those things. But she's still our mom. She'll always be your mom. That doesn't change no matter what else happens. Mia curled up on the bed next to me. Do you think she's really sorry? I think she's sorry she got caught. Whether she's sorry she did it in the first place, that's harder to know. Elena wouldn't do what Mom did. The statement caught me off guard. What makes you say that? Because Elena asks questions instead of just assuming things, and because she doesn't try to fix problems by lying about them. You like Elena? Yeah, she's not trying to replace mom or anything, she's just Elena. I hugged my daughter. That's a pretty mature way to look at it. I'm 15 now. I'm practically an adult. Don't rush it, sweetheart. October brought the first snow of the season and news that Wright's trial was being moved to federal court in Denver. Elena was covering the story, which meant several trips to Colorado over the next few months. Do you mind? She asked over dinner at our place. It means being away more than I'd like. It's important work, I said. Besides, the kids and I can take care of ourselves. I know you can, but I like being here. We like having you here. After dinner, Elena helped Jake with his algebra homework while Mia and I cleaned up the kitchen. Dad? Mia said while loading the dishwasher. Are you going to marry Elena? Why does everyone keep asking me that? Because you smile different when she's around. How do I smile different? Like you actually mean it instead of just trying to make us feel better. I considered this. Do you want me to marry Elena? Do you want to marry Elena? That's not an answer. Yes, it is. You just don't like the answer. Later that evening, after Elena had gone home and the kids were in bed, I sat in the kitchen with a cup of coffee and thought about the question both my kids had asked me. Did I want to marry Elena? The honest answer was yes, probably. But not yet. Not while Sabina was still in prison, not while the kids were still processing their mother's betrayal, not while I was still figuring out how to be a single father. But someday? Yeah, probably someday. In November, I got a call from Rita about Wright's trial. The prosecution had offered him a plea deal, 10 years in exchange for testimony against other developers involved in similar schemes. Will he take it? I asked. His lawyers are recommending it. Without the plea, he's looking at 20 to 25 years. What about Sabina? Would his testimony affect her case? She's already serving her sentence. But if Wright testifies that she was coerced and threatened, it might help with her appeal. She's appealing? Her lawyer filed papers last month, claiming ineffective counsel during the original plea negotiations. I hung up feeling unsettled. The last thing I wanted was for this whole mess to be reopened, but if Sabina had been railroaded by her original lawyer, that wasn't right either. That weekend, Elena and I drove up to Santa Fe for dinner and to see a movie. On the way home, she brought up Wright's case. If his testimony helps your ex-wife's appeal, how would you feel about that? I don't know. Part of me thinks she got what she deserved. Part of me thinks 18 months was probably fair for someone who was being blackmailed and threatened. And part of you still loves her. It wasn't a question. Yeah, part of me still loves her. That's okay, you know. You don't have to hate someone just because they hurt you. Even if they betrayed you, even then, love and trust are different things. Do you think I'll ever trust anyone completely again? I think you'll trust people as much as they earn it, which is probably healthier than trusting people blindly. Is that what I did with Sabina? Trusted her blindly? You trusted her like a husband should trust his wife. She's the one who broke that trust. We drove in comfortable silence for a while, watching the lights of Albuquerque grow larger in the distance. Elena? Yeah? When this is all over, the trials, the appeals, whatever else is coming, would you consider moving in with us? Not tomorrow, not next month, but eventually? She was quiet for a long moment, Are you asking because you want me to, or because you think the kids need a mother figure? Both. But mostly because I want you to. Then yes, I'd consider it. In December, on the twins' 16th birthday, I took them to Santa Fe to get their driver's licenses. Both passed on the first try, and we celebrated at their favorite burger joint. So what now? Jake asked, holding up his new license. Now you get to drive to school instead of riding the bus. And dating? Mia asked with a grin. We'll discuss dating on a case-by-case basis. Elena says you were hopeless when you were our age. Elena is probably right. That evening, we had a small party at the ranch. Elena had made a cake, and a few of the kids' friends came over for dinner and a bonfire. During a quiet moment, Jake pulled me aside. Dad, thanks for not making this whole year about Mom's mistakes. What do you mean? Some of my friends' parents got divorced, and the kids always get stuck in the middle. Having to choose sides, listening to their parents talk bad about each other. You never did that. Your mother made her own choices. You and Mia shouldn't have to pay for them. But you could have made us hate her. You could have told us all the details about what she did. Would that have helped anything? No, but it would have been easier for you. I looked at my son, tall, serious, wise beyond his years. Jake, being a parent isn't about what's easier for me. It's about what's best for you and your sister. I know. That's why I wanted to thank you. That night, after everyone had gone home, Elena and I sat on the front porch and talked about the day. Good kids, she said. Yeah, they are. They're gonna be fine, you know. Whatever happens with their mother, whatever happens with us, they're gonna be fine. I hope so. I know so. They've got good instincts and strong values. That doesn't happen by accident. I can't take all the credit. No, but you can take some of it. A year ago, sitting on this same porch, I'd been angry and hurt and consumed with thoughts of revenge. Tonight, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not the peace of having won, but the peace of having endured. Of having protected what mattered most. In the distance, cattle were settling in for the night, and the lights of Albuquerque twinkled like stars scattered across the valley floor. This was home. This was what I'd fought for. And this was enough. 6 months later, Sabina was released from federal prison on supervised probation. She moved into a halfway house in Santa Fe and got a job working for a nonprofit organization that helped small businesses with financial planning. The irony wasn't lost on me. She wants to see the kids, Rita informed me during one of our monthly check-ins. Her probation officer has approved supervised visits. What did Jake and Mia want? According to her lawyer, she's been writing to them. They've been writing back. This was news to me. How long has this been going on? A few months, maybe. The kids didn't tell you? No. That evening, I confronted them at dinner. Why didn't you tell me your mother was writing to you? Jake and Mia exchanged glances. Because we wanted to talk to her first, Mia said, before we involved you. About what? About whether she was really sorry or just saying she was sorry, Jake explained. And what did you conclude? That she's really sorry, Mia said. But that doesn't mean we trust her. Do you want to see her? Yes, they said in unison. Okay, but I'll be there for the first few visits. We know, Jake said. We wouldn't want to do it any other way. The first visit took place at a family counseling center in Santa Fe. Neutral ground, with a social worker present to facilitate the conversation. Sabina looked older, thinner, but healthier than she had during the trial. Prison had been hard on her, but it had also forced her to confront her addictions and the choices that led to them. "Hi, Dad," she said when I walked in with the kids. "Sabina." The next hour was awkward but civil. Sabina asked about school, about friends, about life on the ranch. The kids answered politely but kept their distance emotionally. "I know I have a lot of work to do to earn back your trust," she said near the end of the session. "How?" Mia asked. "By proving that I've changed. By being consistent and honest in everything I do from now on." "What if we don't want you back in our lives?" Jake's question was direct, but not hostile. "Then I'll respect that. But I hope you'll give me a chance to show you that I'm not the same person who made those terrible decisions." After the session, driving home, the kids were quiet. "What are you thinking?" I asked. "She seems different," Mia said finally. "Different how?" "Sadder, but also clearer, if that makes sense." "She's not making excuses anymore," Jake added. "She's just owning what she did." "Does that change how you feel about her?" "A little," Mia admitted. "But it's going to take time." "How much time?" "I don't know. Years, maybe." Elena and I were married in September, 2 years after Sabina's arrest. It was a small ceremony on the ranch, with just our families and close friends attending. The kids stood up with us, Jake as my best man, Mia as Elena's maid of honor. Sabina sent a card wishing us well, which I thought was generous of her. Our honeymoon was a long weekend in Colorado, hiking in the mountains and talking about the future. Elena had decided to freelance so she could work from the ranch, and I was expanding the cattle operation to include organic beef production. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if Sabina hadn't been caught?" Elena asked one evening as we sat by a campfire in Rocky Mountain National Park. "Sometimes." "What do you think?" "I think she would have lost the ranch, taken the kids, and disappeared. And I would have spent the rest of my life trying to find them." "And now?" "Now she's building a new life in Santa Fe. Slowly earning back the kids' respect. Working to pay off her debts. It's not the ending I would have chosen, but it's not the worst ending either." "Do you think she'll ever remarry?" "Maybe. I hope she finds someone who makes her happy. Someone who helps her stay honest." "You really mean that?" "I really mean that." Elena smiled. "That's one of the things I love about you. You don't hold grudges." "I held this one for a while. But you let it go when it was time to let it go. Grudges are heavy. Eventually you get tired of carrying them around." 6 months after our wedding, Sabina's supervised probation ended. She moved into her own apartment in Santa Fe and started graduate school, studying addiction counseling. The kids saw her every other weekend now, sometimes staying overnight. The relationship was still fragile, still careful, but it was a relationship. "She's trying," Mia told me after one visit. "You can see that she's really trying." "Is that enough?" "For now. We'll see what happens over time." Jake was less optimistic. "She's better than she was, but I don't know if I'll ever really trust her again." "You don't have to," I assured him. "Trust has to be earned, and that takes time." "How long did it take you to trust Elena?" "I'm still working on it." "Really?" "Really. But it gets easier every day." 3 years after Sabina's release, Wright was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. His cooperation had led to arrests in 4 states and the recovery of millions of dollars in fraudulent land deals. Sabina had testified at his trial, describing how he had recruited her and threatened her family when she tried to back out of the scheme. Her testimony was calm, detailed, and credible. Afterward, she called me from the courthouse. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For letting the kids testify on my behalf. Their character references made a difference. They made their own decisions about that." "I know. But you could have discouraged them. They needed to do what felt right to them." "Trent? I know this might be hard to believe, but I'm grateful for how everything turned out." "How can you be grateful? You went to prison." "Because prison saved my life. If I hadn't been caught, I would have kept making worse and worse decisions until I destroyed everything that mattered to me." "You came pretty close to destroying it anyway." "But I didn't. The kids still speak to me." "You found happiness with Elena." "The ranch is thriving." "It could have been so much worse." "She was right, of course. It could have been worse." "Sabina?" "Yeah? I'm glad you're doing well." "Thank you. That means more than you know." Last month, Jake graduated from high school and decided to attend New Mexico State University to study agricultural business. Mia is a senior now, planning to major in journalism like Elena. "I want to write about important things," she told me. "Things that matter to people." "Like land fraud?" "Like truth. When people lie and cheat and steal, someone should tell their story." The ranch is doing better than ever. The organic beef operation has expanded to include 3 neighboring properties, and we've started offering agritourism experiences for city families who want to learn about ranch life. Elena and I are talking about having a baby. At 48, I'm not sure I'm ready to start over with diapers and sleepless nights, but Elena is 36, and this might be her only chance for biological children. "What do you think?" she asked me last night. "I think if we're going to do it, we should do it soon." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure I love you. I'm sure I want to build a life with you. If that life includes more kids, then that's what we'll do." This morning, while Elena was in town covering a story about water rights disputes, I walked out to the back 40 where Keller and Sabina had planned to install the solar farm. The grass was thick and green, and cattle were grazing peacefully in the morning sun. 5 years ago, this could have been lost. My marriage, my ranch, my relationship with my children, all of it could have been destroyed by lies and greed and betrayal. Instead, I'm standing on land that's been in my family for 3 generations, watching cattle that represent the future of sustainable agriculture, thinking about a woman who loves me and children who respect me, and possibilities I never could have imagined when this whole nightmare began. Justice isn't always about revenge. Sometimes it's about rebuilding what was broken and making it stronger than it was before. Sometimes it's about forgiveness, not because people deserve it, but because carrying anger is exhausting and life is too short to waste on old wounds. And sometimes it's about discovering that the worst thing that ever happened to you can also be the thing that teaches you what really matters. The ranch endures. My children are strong and honest and kind. Elena and I are building something real together. That's not just enough. That's everything.